Welcome to Locked and Loaded Sports. It's time to lock in, load up, and win big. If you're serious about sports and love cashing in on solid picks, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's get to work. In this video, we will discuss Week 18 NFL picks for every game on the Sunday slate, using a blend of historical data, advanced sports analytics, and real-world sentiment to deliver sharp and sometimes contrarian betting picks. We start our Week 18 Sunday slate with the classic regular season finale. The Cleveland Browns and Cincinnati Bengals prepare to meet at Paycor Stadium for a matchup that defines the current contrast in the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals enter this contest as touchdown favorites, fueled by an offense that has rediscovered its rhythm under Joe Burrow. Since the star quarterback returned to full health, the Bengals have been a powerhouse, securing a 5-2 record both straight up and against the spread. Their recent performance against Arizona was a masterclass in efficiency, as they capitalized on explosive plays and short fields to put the game out of reach by the third quarter. The Cleveland Browns arrive in Cincinnati playing the role of the ultimate spoiler. Their defense remains a terrifying unit for any opposing signal caller, recently dismantling the Pittsburgh Steelers by holding them to just 6 points. Myles Garrett continues to lead a relentless pass rush that ranks second in the NFL in sacks, a factor that historically makes life difficult for Joe Burrow in these divisional slugfests. However, the Cleveland offense is currently operating with a severe deficit in playmakers. With David Njoku sidelined and Quinshon Judkins on injured reserve, the burden is fallen on young quarterback Sheeter Sanders and a plethora of middle-of-the-road running backs to sustain drives behind a patchwork offensive line. While the Cleveland defense is capable of keeping the score low, the statistical reality points toward an uphill battle for the visitors. The Browns have struggled to find the end zone, averaging just 12 points over their last 3 games, which forces their defense to be nearly perfect to stay within a touchdown. Cincinnati, meanwhile, has shown a ruthless ability to convert yards into points, a trend reinforced by their 37-point outburst last week. When evaluating the spread of 7.5 points, the lack of Cleveland's offensive firepower becomes the deciding factor. Although the Browns' defense will likely record several sacks and keep the game competitive through the first half, the relentless pressure of the Cincinnati passing attack should eventually wear them down. The Bengals possess the efficiency and the healthy weapons necessary to pull away in the fourth quarter. Because the Cleveland offense lacks the explosive potential to keep pace with the surging Joe Burrow, we are getting locked and loaded with the Bengals to cover, with a lean on buying a point to keep the margin under a touchdown. If you appreciate this analysis, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. For our next game to analyze, we take you to a high-stakes environment in the AFC South. The upcoming battle between the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts presents a tale of two teams moving in opposite directions. The Houston Texans enter this contest as big favorites at NRG Stadium, riding a wave of momentum that has seen them win 8 consecutive games. After a rocky start to the year, Houston has transformed into a dominant force, particularly at home where they have secured victories in 6 of their last 7 outings. Their defensive unit has been the cornerstone of this success, currently ranking as the top-scoring defense in the league by allowing only 16.5 points per game. Conversely, the Indianapolis Colts arrive in Houston amidst a devastating 6-game losing streak that has seen them fall from a promising 8-2 start to playoff elimination. The offense has stagnated significantly, and while veteran leadership was expected to stabilize the unit, the lack of explosive plays has made it difficult for them to keep pace with high-scoring opponents. Furthermore, the Colts have struggled on the road, losing 5 of their last 6 away games. This decline is reflected in the betting trends, as Indianapolis has failed to cover the spread in 4 of their last 5 matchups, signaling a lack of competitive consistency as the season draws to a close. Historically, this rivalry has often favored the underdog in point spread scenarios, with the Colts holding a strong 10-5 record against the spread in their last 15 meetings with Houston. However, the current stats suggest a significant shift in that dynamic. Houston's defensive efficiency is matched by an offense that has become increasingly clinical, whereas Indianapolis is surrendering nearly 30 points per game over their last 3 contests. The turnover differential also favors the Texans, who have become adept at protecting the football while their defense consistently forces opposing mistakes. Despite the large 10-point spread, the situational factors heavily favor the home team. Houston is fighting for divisional supremacy and a higher playoff seed, while Indianapolis is starting Riley Leonard in a move toward evaluating younger talent for the future. The sheer disparity between Houston's league-leading defense and an Indianapolis offense that managed fewer than 200 total yards last week creates a difficult path for the visitors, because the Texans have the motivation to secure a blowout victory and the Colts have shown little ability to resist surging opponents lately. With this in mind, we are getting locked and loaded with the Texans to cover. Do you think the Texans will cover? Comment with your favorite picks of the week. Thanks. Our next game to break down is the NFC South finale, where the Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints prepare to meet at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for a high-stakes rematch that carries the significant weight of pride for both franchises. The Atlanta Falcons enter the contest as field goal favorites, coming off a monumental come-from-behind victory against the Los Angeles Rams that moved their season record to 7-9. This win was fueled by a record-breaking performance from Bijan Robinson, who rushed for 195 yards and looks to be in peak form as the primary engine of the Atlanta offense. The New Orleans Saints arrive in Atlanta as one of the hottest teams in the league, riding a 4-game winning streak and a 5-game streak of covering the point spread. The Saints' late-season surge has been defined by the emergence of rookie quarterback Tyler Show, who has posted back-to-back 300-yard passing games and shown remarkable poise in the pocket. While the Saints' offense will likely be without star veteran Alvin Kamara due to recent knee and ankle injuries, wide receiver Chris Olave has stepped up to become a historic threat, currently holding a record-breaking season with over 100 receptions and 10 touchdowns. When examining the historical data and betting trends, the rivalry suggests a tight battle regardless of current momentum. While Atlanta has won 4 of its last 6 games straight up, they have historically struggled to cover at home, posting an 8-15 record against the spread in their last 23 games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Conversely, the Saints have been exceptional on the road against their rivals, covering the spread in 5 of their last 7 trips to Atlanta. The stats further highlight the efficiency of the New Orleans unit, as they hold a superior yards per point differential and a defensive secondary that currently ranks 7th in the league against the pass. Ultimately, the decision rests on whether the Atlanta ground game can overcome a New Orleans defense that has been nearly immovable during their win streak. Although the Falcons have the momentum of a massive comeback victory and the benefit of home field advantage, the Saints' efficiency with a rookie quarterback and their superior defensive statistics create a difficult environment for the home favorite. Given that New Orleans has covered in 5 straight games and holds a consistent historical edge when playing as an underdog in Atlanta, the prediction is that the New Orleans Saints will keep it close. We are getting locked and loaded with the Saints to cover. Don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you so much. With the regular season reaching its conclusion, we have an AFC South showdown to break down, where the surging Jaguars host the struggling Tennessee Titans. Jacksonville enters this contest as heavy favorites. This reflects their dominant 7-game winning streak and their push toward the division title. The Jaguars have been a model of consistency for bettors, covering the spread in each of their last 5 games while maintaining a formidable 7-2 record straight up at home. Their victory last week in Indianapolis highlighted a resilient defense that allows just over 20 points per game, ranking them 9th in the league for scoring defense. The Tennessee Titans travel to Jacksonville looking to end a difficult season on a high note, though the statistical trends paint a challenging picture for the visitors. Tennessee has struggled significantly on the road, winning only 2 of their last 10 away games and failing to cover the spread in 17 of their last 23 road trips. Our rookie quarterback Cam Ward has shown impressive flashes of potential. The team has been hampered by a scoring defense that ranks near the bottom of the league, surrendering over 27 points per contest. Historically, this divisional matchup has been dominated by the Jaguars lately, as they have secured victories in 6 of the last 7 meetings between these two franchises. A deep dive into the statistics reveals a significant mismatch in offensive efficiency. Jacksonville holds a superior yards per point differential, scoring a point for every 12.5 yards gained, whereas Tennessee requires over 15 yards of offense to generate a single point. Furthermore, the Jaguars' passing attack, led by Trevor Lawrence, averages over 11 yards per pass attempt, which creates a daunting task for a Tennessee secondary that has been plagued by injuries to key starters like Marcus Harris and Jalen Davis. Even with the Jaguars dealing with their own injury concerns in the secondary, their front 7 continues to produce elite pressure, anchored by Travon Walker. While the spread is a substantial margin in a divisional rivalry, the current trajectory of both programs suggests the home team has the firepower to distance themselves. Jacksonville is motivated by playoff seeding and a division crown, while Tennessee has already shifted focus toward the future following a 3-win season. The Jaguars previously defeated the Titans by 22 points earlier this year, and given Tennessee's defensive struggles on the road, a similar outcome is likely. Because the Jaguars possess a top 10 scoring offense against one of the league's most porous defenses, we are getting locked and loaded with the Jaguars. We consider this next game the border battle, where the stakes have taken a fascinating turn for this regular season finale. The Minnesota Vikings entered this contest as TD favorites, but the story in the Twin Cities is as much about who will not be on the field as who will. We have confirmed that the Green Bay Packers intend to rest their primary starters for this game. After a late season slide, the Packers find themselves officially locked into the number 7 seed in the NFC playoffs, with no mathematical path to move up or down the standings regardless of the end result. For Minnesota, this is an opportunity to maintain momentum behind a defense that has been playing lights-out football. The Vikings secondary currently ranks 7th in the league against the pass and is coming off a Christmas Day masterclass where they held the Detroit Lions to just 10 points. Even with star tight end T.J. Hockenson sidelined with a shoulder injury, the Vikings offense has found a spark through the explosive playmaking of Jordan Addison. Minnesota has been a powerhouse for bettors recently, covering the spread in 5 consecutive games, and they have historically held the upper hand in this building by covering in 5 of their last 7 home meetings against Green Bay. The Packers find themselves in a precarious position, prioritizing health over a regular season victory. With Jordan Love already nursing a concussion and the offensive line battered by injuries to Zach Tom and a locker room illness, head coach Matt LaFleur is choosing to protect his assets for the wildcard round. While Malik Willis showed incredible dual-threat ability last week with nearly 300 passing yards, he will likely be operating with a skeleton crew of reserve players today. Green Bay has struggled mightily of late, failing to cover the spread in 3 straight games, and their defense faces a tall task after being shredded for over 300 rushing yards in their previous outing. When you look at the stats, the mismatch becomes even clearer. Minnesota boasts a superior defensive efficiency in yards per point, and they are facing a Green Bay squad that is essentially treating this as a 5th preseason game, with the Vikings playing for pride and a potential boost in their own seeding while the Packers keep their stars in jackets on the sideline. All signs point toward a dominant home performance, because Green Bay has no incentive to push their starters and Minnesota remains one of the hottest defensive units in the league. We are getting locked and loaded with the Vikings to cover. Now we head to the East Coast, where the stage is set for a season finale at MetLife Stadium. That is strictly about divisional pride and future momentum, as both the Dallas Cowboys and New York Giants have been officially eliminated from postseason contention. Despite the lack of playoff stakes, this matchup remains a fascinating battle of wills. The Dallas Cowboys enter as road favorites, coming off a high-character Christmas Day victory where Dak Prescott and Javonte Williams combined for over 500 yards of total offense. Meanwhile, the New York Giants finally tasted victory last week in Las Vegas, snapping a brutal 9-game losing streak and providing a glimmer of hope for a young roster that has been tested by an unrelenting injury bug. Historically, the Cowboys have owned the real estate in East Rutherford, winning 7 of their last 8 road games against the Giants and covering the spread in 6 of those contests. Dallas has a psychological edge that spans years, including 5 consecutive straight-up wins in the series and a dominant 12-5 record against the spread in their last 17 meetings with New York. However, the current landscape for Dallas is complicated. They are one of the most inconsistent road teams in the league this year, having failed to cover in 4 of their last 5 away games, while their scoring defense has plummeted to 32nd in the National Football League. For the Giants, this finale represents a chance to validate the progress made by rookie quarterback Jackson Dart and wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson, the latter of whom recently joined the 1,000-yard club. New York has leaned into a high-scoring identity recently, with the total going over in 5 of their last 6 games, and they showed last week that they can still put up points even with a makeshift offensive line. The power stats highlight a vulnerability for the Cowboys, as their defense allows a point for every 12.5 yards surrendered, a statistic that Jackson Dart's dual-threat ability is uniquely positioned to exploit if the Dallas defense continues its late-season slide. This game essentially boils down to whether the Cowboys' historical dominance and superior scoring offense can overcome their road struggles and lack of playoff motivation. While Dak Prescott has expressed a fiery desire to play and finish the season with a winning taste, the Giants are playing at home with the wind at their backs after a blowout win and are desperate to prove they have turned a corner under their new leadership. Given that Dallas has failed to cover in 3 straight games and New York is playing with newfound confidence behind a record-setting rookie quarterback, the points become very attractive for the home underdog. Because the Cowboys have been unreliable on the road and the Giants are playing their most inspired football of the season, we are getting locked and loaded with the Giants to cover. Before we get into our first late afternoon games, we'd like to remind you to comment with your favorite picks of the week. Thanks so much. In the final regular season curtain call at Highmark Stadium, Buffalo Bills host the New York Jets in an American Football Conference East clash where the motivation levels are worlds apart. Buffalo enters as a 7-point favorite, looking to shake off a frustrating 1-point loss to Philadelphia that ended their 5-year reign over the division. Despite that setback, the Bills have been nearly invincible in Orchard Park, winning 16 of their last 18 home games. Conversely, the Jets are stumbling toward the finish line, having lost 6 of their last 7 games straight up, while failing to cover the spread in 7 of their last 10 road trips. The historical dominance for Buffalo in this rivalry is impossible to ignore, especially when the game is played on their home turf. The Bills have won 5 consecutive home meetings against the Jets and have covered the spread in 4 of the last 5 matchups overall in this series. While Buffalo's defense has been middle of the pack recently, they face a New York offense that has completely flatlined, ranking near the bottom of the league in scoring and passing yards. The Jets are also dealing with a decimated backfield as stars Breece Hall and Isaiah Davis were both lost to injuries in last week's blowout loss to the Patriots. Power statistics further tilt the scales toward the home team. Buffalo boasts a top 6 scoring offense and a passing attack that ranks 7th in the league, led by a dual-threat superstar in Josh Allen. While New York has a respectable yards per rush average, their inability to move the ball through the air has made them one-dimensional. The Bills' defense, which ranks 9th in passing defense, is perfectly suited to shut down the Jets' offense that managed only 10 points last week. Furthermore, Buffalo expects to see the return of veteran kicker Matt Prater, whose absence was felt deeply in the one-point loss to the Eagles. Situational factor here is the final tiebreaker. Buffalo is fighting for playoff seeding, with the potential to climb as high as the 5th seed depending on other results across the conference. They are treating this as a necessary tune-up for the postseason and a ceremonial farewell to their longtime stadium. The Jets, meanwhile, are a team in transition, playing for draft positioning with a roster thinned by key injuries. With Buffalo's elite home field advantage and a massive disparity in offensive firepower, we are getting locked and loaded with the Bills to cover. Don't forget to smash that like button. Thanks. Our next matchup is a juicy NFC North rivalry that has taken a drastic turn in late-season momentum. The Chicago Bears host the Detroit Lions at Soldier Field, with the Bears being slight favorites. This matchup features two teams heading in opposite directions. The Bears are currently fighting for a potential 2nd or 3rd seed in the playoffs following a prolific offensive stretch, while the Detroit Lions have been officially eliminated from postseason contention. Chicago has been a powerhouse at home recently, securing 5 consecutive straight-up victories in the Windy City and covering the spread in 5 of their last 6 games at Soldier Field. The Detroit Lions arrive in Chicago struggling to find their footing, having failed to cover the spread in 6 of their last 7 contests. While Detroit has historically dominated this series with a 6-1 record in their last 7 meetings against the Bears, the current version of the Lions is staggering toward the finish line after losing 4 of their last 5 games. The offensive consistency that defined their early season has vanished, as evidenced by a stagnant performance against the Vikings where they managed only 10 points. Furthermore, injuries to cornerstone players like Sam Laporta and Frank Ragnow have significantly hampered their ability to sustain drives in the red zone. Look at the team's comparisons highlights a surging Chicago offense led by former number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams. The Bears rank 3rd in the league in home rushing yards per game and are averaging over 30 points per contest over their last 3 outings. Williams has found elite chemistry with fellow rookies Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, creating a vertical threat that a depleted Detroit secondary will struggle to contain. While the Lions maintain a high-ranking scoring offense on paper, their recent turnover issues, highlighted by a 6-turnover disaster last week, suggest a lack of focus that the opportunistic Chicago defense is ready to exploit. The motivational disparity in this game is the deciding factor for the prediction. Chicago is playing for critical playoff positioning and is coming off a game where they put up 38 points against the dominant San Francisco squad, proving they can trade haymakers with the league's elite. Detroit, conversely, is playing for nothing more than pride and is dealing with significant injuries to their interior offensive line and defensive backfield. Because Chicago has been nearly unbeatable at home and enters this game with clear postseason incentives, we are getting locked and loaded with the Bears to cover. Now we head to Mile High where the air is thin, the stakes are massive, and the regular season finale is finally upon us. This afternoon, we have a fascinating clash between 2 AFC West rivals that are approaching this game with completely different mentalities. On one side, the Denver Broncos are looking to plant their flag at the top of the conference, while the Los Angeles Chargers appear focused on surviving the weekend to fight another day in the postseason. The Denver Broncos enter this stadium as a team on a mission, knowing that a victory today secures the number 1 seed in the AFC and that coveted first-round bye. Under the leadership of head coach Sean Payton, this group has become a juggernaut at home, winning 12 of their last 13 games at Mile High. QB Bo Nix has been the model of efficiency, and he is backed by a defensive unit that has absolutely suffocated opponents, ranking 1st in the league in home rushing defense. With the chance to ensure that the road to the Super Bowl goes through Denver, you can expect the Broncos to keep their foot on the gas from the opening kickoff. Across the field, the Los Angeles Chargers are taking a much more cautious approach as they prepare for the wildcard round. Head coach Jim Harbaugh has already confirmed that star quarterback Justin Herbert will remain on the sidelines to protect a hand injury, and he will be joined by several other key starters who are nursing late-season bruises. This means the offense will be handed over to backup Trey Lance, who faces the daunting task of making his first start in years against an elite Denver pass rush. While the Chargers have been playing high-quality football over the last month, their priority today is clearly on health and recovery rather than improving their playoff seeding. When you look at the numbers, Denver is a massive 12.5-point favorite for a reason. While the Chargers have been a great bet recently, covering in 4 of their last 5 games, those statistics were built with their starters on the field. Without Herbert to move the chains, and with Denver playing for the ultimate prize of home field advantage throughout the playoffs, this game feels like a mismatch of motivation. The Broncos have the incentive to build an early lead and never look back, while the Chargers will likely be looking at the clock and dreaming of the postseason. When the final whistle blows this afternoon, I expect the intensity of the Denver Broncos to be simply too much for a depleted Los Angeles roster to handle. Between the altitude, the incentive of the top seed, and the absence of Justin Herbert, all signs point to a dominant performance from the home team. Even with such a high point spread, the Broncos are in a prime position to handle their business and secure a statement win before their week off. We are getting locked and loaded with the Broncos to cover. Our next game to analyze takes us to Southern California for the regular season finale between the Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. This is a game where the statistics and the recent history suggest a heavy tilt in one direction as a playoff-bound Los Angeles squad looks to fine-tune their engine against an Arizona team that has spent most of the season searching for answers. The Los Angeles Rams enter this contest as a sizable favorite, and they have been one of the most reliable teams in the league for bettors, covering the spread in 18 of their last 24 games. Despite a heartbreaking 3-point loss to Atlanta on Monday night, Matthew Stafford and his offense have been operating at a historic level, ranking first in the league in scoring by averaging over 30 points per game. With Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams leading the charge, the Rams possess an explosive vertical attack that has consistently overwhelmed divisional opponents. When you look at their history against Arizona, the dominance is staggering, as the Rams have won 15 of the last 18 meetings between these two franchises. On the other sideline, the Arizona Cardinals are staggering toward the finish line, having lost 5 consecutive games and failing to cover the spread in 7 of their last 8 outings. The Cardinals have struggled significantly on the defensive side of the ball, surrendering over 28 points per game, which ranks near the bottom of the NFL. The absence of Kyler Murray, the veteran running back James Conner, and the thumb injury to star Marvin Harrison Jr. have left the Arizona offense feeling one-dimensional. In their last meeting just a few weeks ago, the Cardinals were dismantled at home by these same Rams in a 28-point blowout, highlighting the massive gap in roster depth between these two squads. When we dive into the stats, the mismatch becomes even more apparent. The Rams boast the second-ranked home passing attack in the league, averaging over 280 yards through the air, while the Arizona defense has struggled to generate a consistent pass rush. Furthermore, the Rams have been nearly unbeatable at SoFi Stadium lately, winning 7 of their last 8 home games. While Arizona has shown some grit on the road this year, their divisional record is a major concern, as they have yet to secure a win against an NFC West opponent this season and have lost those games by an average margin of nearly 15 points. As we look at the final week of the regular season, the motivation clearly sits with the home team. The Rams are looking to wash the taste of a close loss out of their mouths and build momentum for a deep postseason run, while the Cardinals are essentially playing out the string with a heavily depleted roster. Given that Los Angeles has covered in 13 of the last 18 matchups against Arizona and currently features the highest scoring offense in football, it is difficult to imagine the Cardinals keeping this game within a single possession. I expect Matthew Stafford to capitalize on an injured Arizona secondary to secure a comfortable victory. We are getting locked and loaded with the Rams with a lean on buying a point. Our next game to discuss takes us to Allegiant Stadium, where the neon lights of the Strip are shining bright, but the mood inside this building is anything but celebratory. We have reached the final chapter of the 2025 regular season, and while the playoffs are off the table for both of these historic franchises, the storylines are thick enough to cut with a knife. It is a classic AFC West showdown between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Las Vegas Raiders, but as you look at the benches today, you will notice some very unfamiliar faces leading the huddle. The Kansas City Chiefs enter this weekend in the midst of a jarring 6-10 season, marking the first time in over a decade that the road to the Super Bowl will not go through Arrowhead. That's what had a line of the year has been the season-ending ACL injury to Patrick Mahomes, which has left the reigning champions searching for an identity. In his absence, young Chris Olajuwon has stepped in, but the offense has hit a wall, failing to clear 15 points in 3 of their last 4 games. However, head coach Andy Reid still has his legendary defense to lean on. This unit remains one of the stingiest in the league, ranking 6th in scoring defense and giving up fewer than 20 points per game. For a Chiefs team that has struggled to move the ball, this defense is the anchor that keeps them in every contest. On the other side of the field, the Las Vegas Raiders are enduring a nightmare scenario. Sitting at a dismal 2-14 and currently on the 10-game losing streak, this group is playing for little more than the chance to secure the #1 overall pick in the 2026 draft. The situation became even more dire last week when starting quarterback Geno Smith suffered a significant ankle injury, likely handing the keys to Kenny Pickett for the season finale. With superstars Max Crosby and Brock Bowers already on injured reserve, the Raiders are a shell of the team we saw back in September. They currently rank dead last in the league in scoring, and with a makeshift offensive line protecting the backup quarterback, the task ahead of them today is monumental. When you look at the historical data and betting trends, the weight of the evidence leans heavily toward the visitors. Despite their struggles this season, the Kansas City Chiefs have been a house of horrors for the Silver and Black, winning 9 of the last 10 meetings. Even more telling is their performance in the desert, where Kansas City is a perfect 5-0 in their last 5 visits to Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Raiders have not only struggled to win, but they have also been a poor bet at home, failing to cover the spread in 6 of their last 9 games at Allegiant Stadium. This game essentially boils down to a battle between a championship-caliber defense and an offense that is missing almost all of its primary weapons. The Chiefs' defense should have a field day against a Raiders unit that is averaging a league-low 14 points per game and is currently start to finish decimated by injuries. While Kansas City's offense isn't what it used to be without Mahomes, they only need a few scores to put this one out of reach for a Las Vegas team that seems more focused on the upcoming draft than the final whistle. I expect the Chiefs to control the clock, lean on their defense, and extend their dominance over their division rival one last time this year. We are getting locked and loaded with the Chiefs to cover. And now we head to a frigid Gillette Stadium, where the stakes could not be higher for the home team and the pride could not be more evident for the visitors. We have a classic AFC East rivalry on our hands as the high-flying New England Patriots look to put a bow on a spectacular 13-3 season. Across the field stand the Miami Dolphins, a team that has endured its share of heartbreak this year, but arrives in Foxborough with the singular goal of playing the role of spoiler against their most hated rival. The story for New England begins and ends with their sensational sophomore quarterback, Drake May. Fresh off a dazzling 5-touchdown performance against the New York Jets, May has vaulted himself to the front of the most valuable player conversation. Under the guidance of head coach Mike Vrabel, this Patriots team has become a relentless machine, especially on the road where they finished a perfect 8-0. However, they return home today needing a victory and a little bit of help from elsewhere in the league to secure that coveted number 1 seed and a first-round bye. The defense remains a top 5 unit in scoring, and with weapons like Ramondre Stevenson and Stephon Diggs hitting their stride, the Patriots look every bit like a championship favorite. Do not let that 7-9 record fool you when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. While they have been mathematically eliminated from postseason contention, Mike McDaniel has this group playing with a chip on their shoulder. They are led by the historic campaign of Devon Achane, who has become a dual-threat nightmare for defensive coordinators across the league. Despite the youth of rookie quarterback Quinn Ewers, the Dolphins have shown a remarkable ability to stay competitive in divisional games, and they possess a psychological edge that few teams can claim over New England. When you dig into the history of this matchup, a fascinating trend emerges that defies the current standings. The Miami Dolphins have been an absolute nightmare for New England bettors, covering the spread in 9 of their last 10 meetings against the Patriots. Even more telling is their performance in this very stadium, where Miami has covered in 5 of their last 6 trips to the Northeast. While the Patriots are the superior team on paper and possess the motivation of playoff seeding, the history of this rivalry suggests that Miami finds a way to keep things uncomfortable. As we consider the large spread in play, it feels incredibly high for a divisional battle between 2 teams that know each other's secrets. With the possibility that New England could pull their starters late if the scoreboard elsewhere turns against them. And given Miami's incredible track record of keeping these games close, the trends are pointing in one clear direction. Expect Drake May to have his moments, but look for the Dolphins offense and a resilient Miami defense to hang tough until the very end. When the final whistle blows, we are getting locked and loaded on the Dolphins to cover. Now we bring our attention to Lincoln Financial Field for the regular season finale between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. This is a game defined by 2 very different missions as we close out the 2025 campaign. The Eagles enter the afternoon at 11-5, having just survived a rain-soaked defensive battle in Buffalo. While Philadelphia has already punched its ticket to the postseason, there is still a glimmer of hope for the number 2 seed if they can secure a win and get some help from the Detroit Lions. However, head coach Nick Sirianni has a difficult balancing act on his hands, as reports indicate he plans to rest several key starters, including star quarterback Jalen Hurts, to ensure his team is healthy for the wild-card round. The Washington Commanders arrive in the city of brotherly love at 4-12, looking to end a disappointing season on a high note. While they have been mathematically eliminated for weeks, the emergence of running back J. Corey Krosky-Merritt has provided a late-season spark, as he's coming off a massive 100-yard performance against the Cowboys. With rookie sensation Jaden Daniels still dealing with an elbow injury, the Commanders are expected to lean on veteran Josh Johnson to lead the huddle one last time. Washington would love nothing more than to play the role of spoiler and throw a wrench into Philadelphia's seeding plans before heading into an offseason of rebuilding. When we look at the historical data, the Eagles have traditionally owned this rivalry at home, winning 16 of their last 18 games at Lincoln Financial Field. However, the betting trends tell a much more nuanced story when these two teams meet. Washington has proven to be incredibly resilient against the spread when facing Philadelphia, going 6-1 over the last 7 matchups when the total points are considered. Furthermore, the Commanders have covered in 3 of their last 5 road games against the Eagles, showing they rarely let this divisional battle get out of hand, even in lean years. The spread currently sits at Eagles -4, a line that has shifted significantly as news of Philadelphia resting its starters became public. While the Eagles' depth is impressive, the drop-off from a most valuable player candidate like Jalen Hurts to a backup is substantial. On the other side, the Commanders have shown they are willing to fight until the final whistle, as seen in their close battle with Dallas on Christmas Day. With Philadelphia more concerned about the health of their roster than the margin of victory, and Washington playing with the freedom of having nothing to lose, this game has all the makings of a one-score affair. Despite the talent gap between the primary rosters, the specific circumstances of this Week 18 matchup favor the underdog. We are getting locked and loaded with the Commanders to cover. Before we get into the last Sunday Night Football matchup, we wanted to mention our gratitude to all of our viewers and subscribers. It's been a long season, and we appreciate each and every one that has taken the time to show support. Now let's get into the definitive battle for the North as the Baltimore Ravens march into the Steel City for a Sunday Night Football showdown that carries the ultimate price, the division crown and home playoff game. This is the first time in this storied rivalry's history that the final week of the season presents a true win or go home scenario for both clubs. The Baltimore Ravens arrive with momentum following a 41-24 dismantling of Green Bay, while the Pittsburgh Steelers look to reclaim their defensive identity after a frustrating 13-6 loss in Cleveland. The headline for the Ravens is the expected return of their superstar signal caller, Lamar Jackson. After sitting out last week with a back contusion, Jackson has been a full participant in practice and is slated to lead an offense that just put up 307 rushing yards behind a vintage performance from Derrick Henry. The Ravens possess the league's top-ranked rushing attack, and they are facing a Steelers defense that is physically reeling. While Baltimore has historically struggled against Pittsburgh, dropping 9 of the last 12 meetings, this version of the Ravens looks different, having covered in 4 of their last 5 road games. On the Pittsburgh sideline, Mike Tomlin has been characterized as optimistic regarding the return of all-pro pass rusher T.J. Watt. Watt has been sidelined for 3 weeks with a punctured lung, and his presence is the single most important factor for a Steelers team that failed to find the end zone against the Browns. Aaron Rodgers will need more from his supporting cast, especially with tight end Darnell Washington now on injured reserve and wide receiver DK Metcalf out due to suspension. The Steelers have maintained a psychological edge in this rivalry, winning 7 of the last 10 matchups, but their offense has struggled to produce points, averaging just 17.6 in those contests. The spread of Ravens by a field goal suggests odds makers believe the Ravens playmakers will be healthy. Pittsburgh's yards per point differential is a concerning -2.77, indicating they are struggling to capitalize on offensive opportunities compared to Baltimore's -1.93. Furthermore, the Ravens' road rushing average of 198 yards per game is the best in the NFL, presenting a nightmare matchup for a Pittsburgh front that might be without a 100% healthy T.J. Watt. While the under has hit in 5 consecutive meetings in Pittsburgh, the firepower Baltimore brings with a healthy Jackson and Henry feels like too much for an undermanned Steelers roster to contain for 4 quarters. When you factor in the Ravens' dominance on the road and the glaring holes in the Steelers' offensive personnel, the trends begin to shift toward the visitors. Pittsburgh has a legendary ability to keep games close at home, but they are 3-6-2 against the spread in their last 11 home games against Baltimore. With a healthy Lamar Jackson returning to direct a balanced attack and Derrick Henry running at peak form, Baltimore is poised to break their recent hex against the Steelers. In a game where the winner takes the North and the loser goes home, we are getting locked and loaded with the Ravens to win straight up, with a lean on the under. That wraps up another breakdown here on Locked and Loaded Sports. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the latest sports analysis and betting insights. More picks, more locks, and more action is coming your way. That's all for now. Stay sharp, stay ready, and get locked and loaded.